So, to kick us off for a very exciting weekend, we're going to hear short remarks from 3 members of the EA community on ideas or trends they've noticed and wanted to share with you all. Unfortunately, there won't be time for a Q&A at this session, but Kuhan and Arden will also be hosting office hours in room 308 right after this. Okay, first up we have Lizka Vaintrob. Lizka runs the non-engineering side of the EA Forum at the Center for Effective Altruism and helps with a wide range of other content projects. Before starting at CEA, she did some math research, worked in math education and at Canada-USA Math Camp, and was a visiting research fellow at Rethink Priorities for a summer. Please welcome Lizka to the stage.
Hello. It's the weekend before Halloween, so I'm going to talk about something extremely scary. Mistakes. So a month ago, I sent some people an email asking them to do something by Monday, September 17th. Unfortunately, the last time September 17th was on Monday was 2018. I was extremely stressed about this mistake. I'm still pretty embarrassed telling you all about this. Some of you might be sitting there squirming a bit, feeling secondhand embarrassment on my behalf. And other people might be rolling your eyes and being like, okay, this is really not that big a deal. So at the end of the day, though, it was a mistake, and I could have prevented it. But the thing I want to talk to you here about is not what I should have done to prevent the mistake, but how much of my energy I should have put into preventing mistakes like this in the situation. In particular, there are 2 extremes that we want to avoid with mistakes like this. One is putting too much focus on avoiding mistakes. So this is where we end up in perfectionist zones, we take too long, we frighten our coworkers and stress them out by double-checking everything they write. Or there's too little focus on avoiding mistakes. We make actually bad errors. People show up to the wrong room for a conference. And people just don't trust our work. So we want to be in the just right Goldilocks zone. But the zone is different for different kinds of mistakes. Not all mistakes are like my email, which was fine. People just followed up, and it was great. In particular, in January this year, the FAA grounded all US departing flights for the first time since 9/11. Apparently, this was due to an engineer replacing one file with another in a system that flags hazards to pilots. This delayed over 10,000 flights, delayed or canceled over 10,000 flights, and they said it was an honest mistake that cost the country millions. I think that if your system, which probably supports billion-dollar processes, can be taken down by a single mistake like this, then the deeper mistake is actually not building a system that's robust enough. You can't have systems like this that don't have redundancies. Another area that a lot of you are familiar with, where it's worth taking a lot more precautions and, in fact, expecting that mistakes will happen and still making sure that we don't see harms from those mistakes, is biolabs, especially those that work with dangerous viruses. This is where, if someone accidentally misuses protective equipment, you still don't want to let viruses escape. You should be doing something your system should be more robust than that. And so a general heuristic could be, the higher the stakes you're working with, the more cautious we should be about mistakes. So my email is not the same as a biolab. Great. So we can update our Goldilocks zone graph from before. We've got sloppiness versus perfectionism over here for low-stakes areas of work, where we really don't want to be in the perfectionist side of things. We don't want to take too long. And also then, as we raise the stakes, as we get into areas that are scarier, the Goldilocks zone shifts more towards the careful side of the spectrum. Even some amount of just, it's fine to make mistakes attitude at places like a biolab is actually basically getting reckless. So unfortunately, I think our natural attitude to this kind of mistake avoidance is not well calibrated. We don't naturally fear high-stakes areas as much as we should, and we don't naturally relax around low-stakes areas. In particular, there's some systematic things that happen. So some potential mistakes, they appear extremely scary whether or not the stakes are really high. They're kind of these looming specters. They cast long shadows and they frighten us off, and they make us go towards perfectionism. One area like this is public discourse. We want people to like us. So anything that means that we could get public disapproval or public judgment can be really scary whether or not it actually will cause problems if we make a mistake. Similarly, if there's something that our friends might disapprove of, we are just really scared of that kind of thing. So we take our time, we double check everything, and sometimes we just avoid participating. A different kind of problem is that there are some mistakes that are real mistakes, but they are invisible to us. They're ghosts. We don't actually feel appropriately terrified of them. And so, one type of mistake like this is inaction or unnecessary delays. It's really hard to criticize someone for not doing something. You don't know who to criticize very often. If someone's taking their time when they could have gone faster, you often don't know that they could have gone faster. And so we end up not being appropriately scared of going too slow or not doing something. And this doesn't get discussed enough. I was actually really excited to see some discussion of this kind of problem recently in the context of the fact that the WHO recently endorsed a malaria vaccine that's extremely promising, which is great news. Unfortunately, the WHO plans on rolling out this vaccine in mid-2024. And in the meantime, over 1,000 children are dying from malaria every day. So that's multiple children during this talk. I don't know what's happening there. Maybe there are fundamental barriers that they can't overcome, but it's also the kind of area where we end up going too slow or not doing something, and this is, in fact, a catastrophic mistake that we can do. Another area where we have these invisible mistakes is issues where the responsibility is diffused, or generally issues that are common in the culture or ongoing problems. This is also kind of shows up in the malaria example. Malaria is an ongoing disease. If it were a new disease, we might be treating it differently. But also, when I send an email with a typo, everybody knows that I sent that email. So you know who to blame, and I'm really embarrassed about it, and I feel really stressed about making that kind of mistake. But if there's a process on my team that's actually quite important and that I could have improved, and I didn't improve that could actually be a much worse mistake that I'm making, but I don't feel as embarrassed about it. I usually don't even think about it. So this kind of mistake appears to us as a ghost. We basically just don't see it, and then we end up neglecting it. So we end up in the chill about this kind of mistake zone. And these issues can work together in bad ways. So these miscalibrations can add up to a greater miscalibration in some areas. For instance, who here has ever considered sharing something publicly or participating in a public discussion or presenting and either taken way too long preparing for this, like drafting that comment, double checking literally everything, or just avoided doing that? Great. Sometimes it's worth actually investing that time, but it's not always the case. It's an area where we've got the specter of public disapproval, and we're missing out on the benefits of actually doing the thing. Another thing is, if I'm a junior employee at a lab, and I see my coworker do something that I'm not sure is right, but I'm not sure, then the specter of maybe the coworker will be offended at me if I say something, or I'll look stupid, could make us make a trade-off there that we don't endorse, because we really, really don't want something dangerous to escape a lab. Another thing is just, once you try anything, it could fail. So attempting anything basically fundamentally involves the possibility of the specter and can be really scary, despite the fact that it's often really worth it. So we want to recalibrate. We want to get into this Goldilocks zone and get better in our attitude to mistakes. There are a bunch of things that can help. I don't know all the things that can help. You can think about it. For me, practicing has helped, just sending emails with typos sometimes. The first email that I send without triple checking it is a lot scarier than the 100th email that I send without triple checking. Another one is just naming areas and being okay, public discussions often scarier than I actually think they are. So if I'm feeling a little bit scared, maybe I can be like, okay, maybe I shouldn't be this scared, and maybe I should just overcome that and try it out. But I think it's actually really hard for us to do this on our own. So for me to recalibrate my attitude is a lot harder to do if my environment does not echo that recalibration. So yeah, for example, if my team is the kind of team where if I bring up in a meeting a potential worry that we actually discussed a meeting like last week, and they mock me for it, or they react harshly about it, then I'm gonna be sitting there analyzing, making sure that I didn't miss something every time I think about making a comment. And I'm gonna be over in this perfectionist side. Right, so, specters gain power in that kind of environment. And on the other hand, if my lab has a really relaxed culture, and me being cautious is kind of silly to other people, then it's going to be hard for me to stay cautious all the time. I should probably just have, we should have systems here. It's not about, I can't just pull this off on my own. So I think we can help each other get more calibrated on this issue. One of the ways I think we can do this is by disarming specters. Where there are mistakes that are pretty low cost, that appear really scary to a lot of people, we can just make them less scary for those people. So for instance, posting on the EA forum is really scary for a lot of people. The potential of a mistake on the EA forum is really scary for a lot of people. We can just be nice. We can just be kind when people make mistakes. We can flag if something is a nitpick. We can, appreciate people for posting, for making a mistake, and we can say, I appreciated most of your comment, but here's a small issue or a disagreement. Another thing is just showing that we also make mistakes can be really helpful. We can, I can see that my friend made a mistake, and everyone still, is friends with her, and then I'm like, okay, this is not that bad. And also I can react kindly to her and be like, okay, this is maybe how other people will react kindly to me. And so I'm really grateful for people who show things publicly that they think might involve mistakes. Another thing I think we can do is, okay, we've got these ghosts, they're invisible, so people don't go and take care of them. They don't tackle the ghosts because their feelings aren't tracking that they're real problems. So I think we can be extra grateful and vocally appreciative of people who actually do take care of ghosts. And this is especially true when the ghosts are in areas where there are other kinds of mistakes or looming specters that are getting in the way and frightening people off from ever trying to tackle those ghosts. For instance, when someone is speaking up because they think something might be off with the way their team is doing something, that can be really scary. They're still doing it, and whether or not I agree with what they think is off, I think I should be really grateful, and I should tell them and show them that I'm grateful for the fact that they're doing this. Another thing is when people post something and risk their reputation, or feel like at least they're risking their reputation online, with the potential of making a mistake, I can show them more appreciation and make them feel like this is a thing that is creating value, which their emotions might not be tracking. And then another thing I think we just don't appreciate enough is the fact that getting anything done, attempting anything ambitious that's going to make a dent in improving the world involves overcoming a bunch of hurdles. It involves trying things that might fail. It involves getting over perfectionism. And so we can just be more vocally grateful to the people and organizations that do this kind of thing. For instance, Pure Earth reduced harmful lead exposure in Bangladesh. Or EPOC, they publish really useful data sets for understanding how AI research is going to develop. Or the Fish Welfare Initiative, which improved welfare standards at 89 farms. Or Effective Spenden, which raised over 15 million euros for effective projects in 1 year. I don't know what needed to happen for those things to actually get accomplished, but I'm sure it was a lot. I think we can be a little bit more vocal in our appreciation of these kinds of things. So, I just want us to get more calibrated on this issue. So I want us to disarm specters, notice ghosts, and help each other do these things. Thanks.